At the end of this, I do want to talk for a little while, but at the end of this, the most important thing are the questions, because we learn so much about each other when we answer and ask questions together. So I want to make sure that we have that opportunity. In every talk lately I've given, I start out by saying, have you noticed what just happened? And what just happened is I just made a first impression on you. And what I'm going to do now, from here forward, whether it's today or years from now, I'm going to do everything within my power to make you forget this first impression. I want you to forget that I'm 3'9" with no arms and no legs. I'm going to do everything in my power this afternoon and here forward through a series of stories that I want to share, some of which I hope you'll laugh with me because they're funny, some of which won't make you laugh, but all of which I hope will make you think about our place and where we are in society. Put yourself in my shoes a little bit and think about what we would go through. But these stories that I want to share, which will talk about where we are together as a group and then as individuals. Before I do that, I do want to take a sort of a step back and explain to you, you saw a little bit of my life on the video. I am the Director of Corporate Support for my local PBS television station. I am husband to my wife. If PBS got an applause, thank you. My wife and I have been married for 16 years. We have more applause. Trust me. Yeah, she's put up with me for 16 years. My 3 kids are wonderful. I'm blessed to have 3 children. Graduated Syracuse University in 1990 with a degree in television, radio, film, and I'm so proud of that as well. I'm also a congenital amputee, or a congenital limb loss. I was born 41 years ago in Binghamton, New York, without the extension of my arms and legs. And through many doctors' conversations and doctors' visits, the question why? Why? Why were you born like this? My parents asked that question. What happened? My wife and I went for genetic counseling before we had our daughter. What if? Why? But it really doesn't matter why. I'm never going to thumb wrestle with any of you. I can't go back in a time machine and change it. What matters is how I deal with the body that I have and how I am as a person with you today. So I can't go back and change it. But what I can do is prove to you that I'm okay with who I am, that I'm comfortable in my own skin, I'm comfortable with the body that I have, and I hope that's what you get out of our talk today. I mentioned first impressions. It really is the first impressions that start it. I want to share with you some stories about first impressions. I want to go back to college. I want to go back to getting that letter in college in 1986. And the letter comes in the mail and it says, John, you've been accepted to Syracuse University, and there'll be another letter that follows that will explain where you're going to live and who you're going to live with. The letter arrives a month later and it says, Dear John, congratulations. You're going to be living in Sadler. That's your dorm. Here's your room assignment. And here's the name of the person that you're going to be living with. His name is Roberto. Great. Now what do? There's no Facebook. There's no Twitter. You can't email people in 1986. So you pick up the telephone and you dial those digits and you get Roberto on the other end. Roberto's in California. Hi, Roberto. I'm John. Great. Nice to meet you. I said, I'm going to bring the refrigerator and the stereo. He said, great, I'll bring the money to fill the refrigerator. I said, perfect, that's great. We'll see you there. We hung up the phone. So it's orientation day. I unpack half of my room, no Roberto. It's the next day, the day classes begin. No Roberto yet. Classes are just about to begin. Roberto comes running into the dorm, opens the door, throws his bag down, takes a look at me and walks out, and that's our introduction. We go by about a week, and we say hello to each other, and that's about it. We go by 2 weeks, and at the end of the second week, Roberto comes up to me and says, John, I really need to talk to you. Now, Roberto said nothing to me, really. I really need to talk to you, John. He goes, I'm moving out. I am so uncomfortable with how you look, I cannot live with you anymore. And he picked up his bag, and he walked out. Now, I'm not going to deny it didn't hurt. But I got my own room for the next 2 years. I was living by myself, and that was a plus. You See, Roberto wasn't comfortable, and I didn't tell him what I looked like, and you know what? I'm not going to put myself in a position where I'm with somebody that's completely uncomfortable. But I hadn't learned that yet. So fast forward 2 years. It's the summer between sophomore and junior year. And of course, at college you make the best friends you ever have in life, and they're the best friends that I made then happen to be my godparents to my kids now. But it's the summer between sophomore and junior year, and my friend Rob, who can get me to do anything in life, he's one of those few people that you know in life that get you to do anything where you probably shouldn't be. He says, John, we're going to go to the Cape. There's 6 guys, and we want you to be one of the 6. We want you to meet my parents. We're going to our summer house. Will you come? Absolutely. Now, I'd spent my summers bobbing up and down in the ocean in New Hampshire, and I was bobbing up in cold water, so I was excited about the warmer water. So we get there. We all meet up in Boston, and we get in 1 car or 2 cars, and we drive down to the Cape. And again, it's to meet his parents, the 6 of us. Now, what do 6 college guys do? They get to the house, no parents are there. So we throw on our swimsuits, we grab towels, and we head down to the beach. What do we do when we get there? We see the water. We throw our towels down, take off our shirts, and run into the water. So, I'm bobbing in the ocean, it's a little bit warmer, I'm having a great time, and my 5 friends are standing around in a circle. I'm not paying any attention to them whatsoever. I'm bobbing around, and they're starting to talk about me, and I look around, and I notice that they're looking at me, all 5 of them, and I said, what's going on? Yeah, that's what we're going to do. What? My friend Rob says, yeah, you guys each take a corner of John, and I'm going to get in the middle, and we're going to heave him as high in the air as possible in the water. Ready? 1, 2, 3, whoop! Splash! Well, this was the best thing I'd ever done. I was flying. We do this for 25 minutes. 25 minutes, 1, 2, 3, and I'm flying in the water. It's fantastic. Now, I hadn't met his parents yet, and I'd had so much salt water to drink, I'm thirsty, I need to get a diet soda or some water. So I walk up, soaking wet, go up to the towel. His parents are like this. Are you okay? The lifeguard comes running by. Are you okay? Are you okay? Do you want me to stop them? Where were you 25 minutes ago? That was how I met Rob's parents. Now, my friends were comfortable. They knew what they could do with me and that I was comfortable with myself. We'd learned each other. But Rob's parents hadn't realized that I was that way with them and they were that way with me. Really, the best thing about first impressions is children. And it's great that we're in the children's book section right now. You see, if you've had a 4 or 5 or 6-year-old, and some of you have them on your lap right now, kids are going to say anything that comes to mind, aren't they? Kids are going to say it. Look at the little man, Mommy. Ooh, the man has no hands, Mommy. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I want to go up and touch him and feel him. Kids do that. You see, adults have the same questions. Teenagers have the same questions. It's just we have more filters on us. But it's that 4, 5, and 6-year-old that they're going to go right up and they're going to say, hey, what's going on? And as a person with a physical disability, I've learned an awful lot about myself with the kids because I need to be patient. I need to understand, hey, the questions are natural. Hey, adults have questions. I need to be able to answer them when they do come up. I need to learn about myself and how kids are reacting to me. Now, I haven't always been perfect. My wife likes to remind me of the time I turned to the young boy in Toronto, Ontario on the busy city street, and I said, it's because I didn't eat my vegetables. I said, Andrea, I never said that. She goes, yes, you did. Yes, you did. I bet that boy went home and ate his vegetables that night, didn't he? But see, it's not vegetables. It's the fact I was born this way. I was born without arms and legs. And so when the 4, 5, or 6-year-old comes up and asks me, hey, why do you look like that? I was just born this way. This is the way I was made. Some people have brown hair, some people have brown eyes. I have less legs and arms than the rest of them. See, overcoming first impressions has led to a very important lesson in life. Am I facing an obstacle or an opportunity point in time? Is it an obstacle that kids look at me funny? Or is it an opportunity to prove to people that, hey, I'm all right with who I am? And we can be all right with who we are. See, it's my belief that everybody here right now is thinking about something else. You're thinking about the Jets game. You're hoping they win. You're thinking about the bills that you have to pay. You're thinking about the projects at home, right? You're thinking about all these things in your head that are building up against obstacles. Obstacles against what? Some kind of happiness. Some kind of personal comfort and happiness with who and what you are and where you are today. And when you see me, you probably take a step back and you say, you know what? That man must have had so many obstacles to overcome. Right? I know it. I sit out there. I understand. For the longest time, I didn't look in mirrors. I didn't want to look at video of myself. In my own mind's eye, I'm not what I am. For the long time, I saw obstacles too. But through a series of events, I've learned to turn those obstacles into opportunities, into success. Let me share with you 2 quick opportunities in life. The first one is driving. How many people drive their own car? Raise your hand. Okay. So, when I was 5 years old, my mom turned to me. Now imagine being my mother of me, how I look like. At 5 years old, she said, John, when you turn 16, we're going to buy you a car. So what did I hear? Woo, I get a car at 16, right? And I go out and play with my Matchbox cars. But what did she do? She dangled that carrot, didn't she? She said, you know what, that's going to be something we're going to work for. Now, I'm 12 years old, and I'd spent the other parts of my summers that I wasn't bobbing in the oceans living on my grandparents' farm in upstate New York. And it was a big working dairy farm. And so what happens on dairy farms? In my family, when you turn 12 years old, you start driving a tractor and you go to work. So I'd heard all these stories. So when I turned 12, I heard the story of my mom turning 12 years old. She was the oldest of her generation. My grandfather went out and bought her a tractor. And what was she going to do? She was going to learn to drive that tractor. And what did she do? He put her up on top of that tractor, and she drove that tractor right into a ditch. Never drove again. My uncle, 2 years later, came along, put up on the very same tractor. What did he do? He drove it perfectly. I want to ask you who was smarter. He got 40 years of hard labor driving that tractor. My mom didn't. I didn't hear this. At 12 years old, I'm thinking, you know what? I want to learn to drive. It's my turn. This is what I want. Well, in my grandmother's garage, there was an old lawn tractor. A little bit bigger than a riding lawnmower, but a little bit smaller than the family tractor. So I looked at that lawn tractor and I said, you know what? I want to do this. How can I do it? So I jumped up on the lawn tractor, took the keys from the kitchen right in front of my grandparents. They didn't stop me. Jumped up onto that lawn tractor. I couldn't reach the clutch. Key won't go. All right? What am I going to do? So I'm looking around the garage. How am I going to reach that clutch? There's an old rectangular metal basket. And I look at that metal basket and I say, yeah, this might work. So I jump off the tractor, go get the metal basket, jump back up onto the tractor with the basket, jam my foot into the basket, jam it onto the clutch, it falls off. That's not going to work. What if I jam it on my arm? This is great. I can do this. Jump down, get the basket, put it back up on top, jump back up, jam my arm into that metal basket, and jam it onto the clutch. Turn the key, the engine comes on. Use my foot to put it in reverse, back out of the garage. Use my foot, put it in first. I'm off. I'm driving. I'm 12 years old. This is fantastic. I finally taught myself to drive the old lawnmower. This is great right up until I hit the hill. And what happens when you push a clutch into a hill? Not a brake. You start hurtling down the hill. And I am jumping off the lawn tractor as it's going into my grandmother's flowers. Flowers all over the place. Do you imagine being my grandparents watching this all happen? They were in the living room watching it all happen. But what did I do? Little trial and error, but I figured it out. So 4 years from then, I'm 16. That carrot is still dangling in front of me. My father finds a driver's ed teacher in New Hampshire who drives 45 minutes to meet me. And he says, John, I want you to jump in the driver's seat. I want you to put your seatbelt on, and these are the keys. He goes, you'll notice that there's hand controls. attached to the steering column. He goes, you push in for the brake, push into the brake for brake, and you pull down towards your leg for gas. This is great. Pushing in for the brake is exactly what I was doing with that metal basket all those years ago. He goes, can you do it? Yes, I can do this. I can drive. Turn the key on. He goes, I want you to drive. Get out on the street. Let's go. We did our 8 hours of driver's ed training in 8 hours. He said, you're fine. You know exactly what you need to do. The best thing, I said to him, is, you know what? If I let go of the hand controls, I don't have to jump out of the moving car because they're attached. It was true. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, well, let me explain to you how I learned to drive. But see, driving was one of those two moments. It was the way that I know I can get around. You know, I can travel to Maplewood. I don't have to ask anybody for help. I can get to sales appointments. I can get to and from classes at school. It was one of those things that allowed me to start thinking independently. Now there's another one, and that's dressing. I want you to put yourself at 17 years old, and you're in high school, and you're thinking about all the same things that high school students are thinking about. You're thinking about saying goodbye to friends, and taking tests, and goofing off, and getting in trouble, and growing up. But I had another one. I had to ask for help in the bathroom. So if I wanted to use the washroom, I had to go to the assistant principal to do it. I want you to put your elbows together. Can you put your elbows together right now? Can you unbuckle your belt? Can you unbutton your pants? I just did a speech in a high school in upstate New York, and a girl actually was unbuckling her belt in the front row. I'm like, no, stop, please. I couldn't either. I couldn't do that. So I wanted to figure this out. I'd gotten accepted. I wanted to go away to school, but I wanted to do this for myself. So the woman that used to hem my pants, you can see I'm a little short, so my pants are a little shorter. The woman that used to hem my pants as a kid, she said, John, I'll help you figure it out. I said, Nancy, I really need to do this for myself. I need to do this. Will you please sit down with me, and if we can do it together, you sew it, and we'll figure it out somehow. Absolutely. So it's one rainy day in May, and we sit at the kitchen table, and I bring down 4 pairs of jeans, and she goes, let's figure this out. What can we do? The first thing she tries is a string. Well, I've got no opposable thumbs, so I'm about as good with a string as an elephant. That's not going to happen. So I can't tie the string, and I can't deal with it. So she says that's not going to work. Second thing, we try a snap. So we take the button off the pants, and she sews on a snap. All right, so what do I do with the snap? Well, I lean up against the wall and snap the pants on. That's fine. That's great, right up until I bend over to grab my cane on the floor, and the snap comes undone, and my pants fall off right in front of Nancy. I'm like, ooh, I'm sorry. She goes, that's not going to work. I said, no, that's not going to work, walking onto campus and bending over and my pants fall off. Well, what can we try that's better than a snap? Well, we try a piece of Velcro. All right, this has potential. We'll try Velcro. So we try a 1-inch by 1-inch piece of Velcro. But again, 1 inch of Velcro is not very strong. Bend over, it comes apart. So what's stronger than 1 inch of Velcro? 6 inches of Velcro. I heard somebody say 2. Yeah, 2 would be stronger. We decided to go really strong, 6 inches. So she sewed 6 inches of Velcro on the outside of the waistband of my jeans, and sewed the other part, the adhesive part, to the other side of the jeans. And you pull it tight across, and you lay it on top of it, and you push it together. And you can bend over, you can pull as much as you want. 6 inches of Velcro is not coming apart. My pants are not going to fall off when I'm walking around. But what did that do? That, along with driving, gave me the independence to go get dressed, to get up, to move, and go to school. But these were just moments in time. These weren't really the opportunities that they presented themselves to be until later, till much later when I realized what it was. The title of the book is Get Off Your Knees, and there's a story behind it. I was used to a very small school. We had 40 kids in my graduating class, and I decided to go to a big school. And Syracuse University has thousands and thousands of students. And you stood in line to do whatever it is that you're going to do. You stand in line for books and for food and to go to a game. You stand in line to do whatever you're doing. And so I'd gotten used to standing in line. And what I would do as a defense mechanism is I'd stand as close as possible to my friends. So my friends would get used to having me as close to them, and I'd walk behind them. Well, we're in this party one night, and we're leaving. And the room bottlenecks into a small place. And there's people coming in, and there's people going out. And so what did I do? I got as close to Craig and Dave as possible. Now, Craig is 6'1", and Dave is 6'3". And so the view of Craig and Dave is not pretty when I'm right up against them walking out. Imagine. Think about it. We're walking out. Well, I'm leaving, and these people are coming in at the same time, and this woman looks down at me, and she looks up, and she looks down, and she screams for the whole room to hear, "If you'd get off your knees, this line would move a lot faster." I am off my knees. I don't have knees. Well, my friends thought that was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. Ah, John's got to get off his knees. He's got to stand up. Well, he went back to the dorm and told all our other friends, "Yeah, John's got to stand up. Ah." But the truth is, I did have to get off my knees. I did need to stand up to the reality of, hey, I am 3'9". I am a congenital amputee. I do need to stand up to the challenges that are ahead of me. Getting off my knees means to work hard, be educated, be honest with myself, be a respected citizen in my community. It means a lot of things. But the biggest thing it means is be comfortable in your own skin and realize who and what you are. I want to fast forward a little bit, and then I want to answer questions. But I got this job. I had a degree from Syracuse University, and I thought I was going to get this great job coming out of college. I got this job out of college in Toronto, Ontario. It took me 4 years later to find the job in television that I have now, but that's for a different story. You can read about it. But I did get this job in Toronto, Ontario a year after I graduated from Syracuse University. And come to find out, the job was sort of a scam. They hire 20 people and 2 succeed and 18 are sent home. But they don't tell you that before they move you up there. So I get in my car, throw a futon in the back seat, and drive up to a new country, and I'm off to Toronto, Ontario for this job. And so it's the first week at the job. And it's one of those team building exercises. If you've ever been to a ropes course or whatever it is, you've all been on team building exercises. Well, I wanted to be the team player. I wanted this job. So, all right, I'm going to do it. They go, "John, here's what we're going to do. All 20 of us plus the 2 managers who are all 2 years older than us, so it's a bunch of 20-year-olds, we're going to go to Canada's Wonderland." Now, Canada's Wonderland is the biggest amusement park in Ontario. Great. I hate amusement parks, but that's fine. It's going to be a great team building exercise. I really want this job. So we get there at noon, and 22 of us are walking around, and we go up to every ride. And every ride has a 4-foot height requirement. So we go up to one. I can't get on that one. So they all get on the ride, and they're having a great time, and they're really building a great team. And we go to the next one. Another height requirement. And we go to the next one, and the next one. You get the idea. It's 6 o'clock at night. We've been to every ride in Canada's Wonderland, and we get to the last roller coaster. And it's the oldest wooden roller coaster in Ontario. There's no height requirement. You know what? I'm going to do this, darn it. I'm going to show them that I'm a team player. I'm going to get on that roller coaster, as angry as I am at this point. So everybody jumps on the roller coaster, and it's the last car. And I'm sitting next to the guy who's my boss, and we jump into the last car, and I sit down. Ooh, I'm sitting on something. I sit down, and the bar comes down, and the car starts to go up. And I reach down for the bar, and it's below my legs. It's below my legs. I can't hold on. And the car is going up, and it gets to the top of the hill, and it hits the top of the hill, and it gains speed, and hits the bottom of the hill, and we start turning the corner, and I turn to the guy, and I say, "I'm leaving." And I'm literally falling out of the roller coaster. Oh my God is right. a guy grabbed my collar and threw me on the floor. It was it. That was it. Getting off my knees means understand who and where you are. Was it the smartest thing to get on that roller coaster? No. Am I ever going on a roller coaster again? Absolutely not. What does it mean? It means, yeah, be a team player, but you know what? Don't be foolish. I am who I am. I am 3'9". I can't just grow legs here today. And that was a very important part. You know, later in life I've had a great career, and I'm blessed to be able to share my story with so many people. I would like to answer your questions here today, and I do want to stick around, but I am excited to be able to share and meet new people. Thank you very much.
Questions? Sherry.
I hope you wouldn't be insulted by a question about the congenital amputee.
Bring it on.
Does it mean that you were born such that very early you had to have your forearms amputated?
No.
Or
Good question. I was born without limbs. So there's 26 out of 100,000 births in the United States have some sort of limb loss. So maybe an arm, maybe a leg. It's the very rare case that it's all 4 legs. There are people that you see that have amputations because of severe deformities. That wasn't my scenario. I was born as you see me. I don't know if you could see my arm. I've got sort of a fatty bump. I think it would have been a thumb. And actually, I can move it. It's kind of weird. People ask me, but I can feel where the nerves of my fingers would be. So I'm pointing at you right now, even though you can't see it. But my college roommate, Pat, who is brilliant, for 4 years thought that this was surgically attached so that I could open doors. And he goes, so when did they put that on? I said, what? He goes, your marshmallow, when did they put it on? I said, they didn't put it on. He goes, yeah, they did. He asked my mom. I mean, he had to call my mom to ask when did they put it on. He never believed me. And I don't think he still believes me. But this is the way I came out, to my knowledge, unless they're keeping some dark secret, which I don't think they are.
Do you have siblings, and how were they about your...
I have a sister who's 2.5 years younger. She's fine physically. My parents went through genetic counseling before they had her. My parents went through, understandably, the why did this happen? And so they wanted to make sure. So they went through all of that. But Catherine came out fine. She came out with 10 fingers, 10 toes, and everything was fine that way. The irony is I started to look for, when my daughter was born, I was looking for the 10 fingers and 10 toes too. And knowing I didn't have them, my dad said to me, he goes, are you upset that, how it came out with me, meaning? I said, no, I'm just happy, like every parent. I'm happy that I have a child. So I'm blessed that way.
How was your sister about your limbs, and how was she?
My sister was great growing up. She was very caring, a caregiver at times, even though she was younger. But it's been harder on her as an adult. She moved to Wisconsin, so we don't see each other as much as I wish we did. My mom died of Lou Gehrig's disease about 12 years ago, so we've had other trauma too, and I write about that as well. But all in all, my sister's been great.
Did you ever meet anybody that was born like you were?
You know what? I didn't, and there was, hard to believe, there was no computer when I was a kid. There was no internet. I think if I were a kid now, I would be able to find people instantly like me. But I didn't meet anybody that was my height, a little person, until I was 25. I've met other amputees. I met one other one, which again I write about, but I was 4 years old or 5 years old. I barely remember that person. So I didn't meet a lot of people. There's a funny story. There's a funny story that I want to share about meeting that person when I was 25. I worked at a TV station in Syracuse, and near Syracuse there's a Wizard of Oz convention. And so this is the mid-90s, and all the Munchkins come to Syracuse. And so we're at the TV station, and there's an announcement that goes around that Meinhardt Robbie, who was the corner of the Wizard of Oz, is going to be in the station, if anybody would like to meet him. And I'm like, I run right down, right? I want to be there. And only because I wanted to meet somebody my own height. So I get down there, and he's thinking about the interview. He doesn't want to meet me, and he says, hi, how you doing? And he goes on. But his wife walks in, and his wife is the same height. She's 82 years old, and she's sharp as a tack, and beautiful, and 4 feet tall. And so we start talking, and she turns to me, and she goes, I could find you a wife. Really? I said, what am I going to do with my wife now? She said, you're married? I said, yes. She goes, she's tall, isn't she? I said, yes. Okay. She was all upset. What she was getting at is that there's a little person's convention, and she really wanted to introduce me. And you know what? I wish I'd had that as a kid. I wish I'd known that there was, I don't even know if I would have been accepted in the little person community, but I wish I'd known. YouTube, now you put in amputation, you find 200 friends immediately. I wish I'd had that. Yep.
Prostheses, have you considered them?
Yes. Up until I was in 7th grade, I wore artificial arms and legs. I came right here. My dad, we would take every 6 months, we would drive to Kessler. And from Binghamton, New York, and then later near there, we would drive here and get fitted. And so I would get fitted with my arms and legs like a cast, plaster of Paris. And then I'd go away and come back, and they would have the artificial arm or leg attached. And so because I have no knees, I was pretty much walking on stilts. The knee was a hard lock. So you had to push the button to unlock it, and you had to, sort of click it to lock it. That was great unless you thought it was the other way. So you stood up and it was unlocked, and you'd fall down, and you couldn't get back up. And then I had the artificial arms, which was, I don't know if you've ever seen the back of artificial arms, but it's your shoulder blades. If you can move your shoulder blades right now behind you, that's how you click and unclick them. And so if it was locked and you flexed your shoulder blade, the claw would open up. So you put your peanut butter sandwich in it, and you'd eat your sandwich. And then you'd click it to unlock it to bring it up closer to your face. But if you thought it was the wrong way and you're really trying to force the arm open, you whack yourself from the face with the artificial arm. I mean, there's things you learn as you go. But what happened is when we moved to New Hampshire, I went to a very small school. It had no elevator. And so I had to learn to walk up and down the stairs holding the arms with the claw and the legs. I couldn't do it. So at that point, we ended it. I look at it now, I see the advancements that are made, and I meet people with, computerized knees that know when you want to bend, and the hands that Cayman is making in New Hampshire. You just see what could have been. But I didn't keep up with it. And I learned to acclimate to what I have now, and so that's what happened.
So what's your goal for shooting golf?
Just to have fun, not to bend any clubs.
Where do you like to play?
I play in Syracuse. My friend Jivy, who you see on the video, is a college roommate of mine. He made me a lifetime member, so I play there as much as I can. To answer your question, I shoot about 50 for 9 holes. And I wish my putting was better, that's for sure. But sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not.
John, I hope everybody will. John will be signing books afterwards in the back, and I hope you'll read all about this in particular in some depth. But I was hoping you could talk just briefly about your parents and their reaction and the role of faith, and in particular the role of your community, in this case really I think your church, but in supporting your parents and how critical that was, because that was very touching for me.
My dad is an Episcopal priest, so we had a very tight community in Binghamton, New York when I was born, and they were very accommodating and loving. My parents, my mother, I do write about this, but my mother was obviously, understandably shocked when I was born. And we didn't know what to do. And so for the first day or two, she didn't hold me. And then she had to have the doctor friend, their very good friend who was the obstetrician in the church, say, Priscilla, what I want you to do is to hold John and get to know him, and I think you'll like him. And sort of from that moment, and there's a punchline to that which I won't ruin in the book, but from that moment on, Mom understood that, you know what, I was her baby and she's going to make it through. So Mom had that first initial problem, and then Mom was the guiding light through life. Mom was the rock. Mom was the one that sort of told me, hey, you can do anything and I'm not going to cut you any slack whatsoever. My dad was the Episcopal priest in town, former English teacher, very, I don't know if intellectual is the right word, but my dad would think through problems. He would also deal with everything externally from the household. So if we go to Kessler, Dad was the one that was going to do it. If we're going to fight with the school board, Dad was the one that are going to do it. So my parents created a really good balance. Mom was the rock at home, Dad was the rock outside. And what it created was sort of that perfect storm that allowed me to grow into myself. Faith, I'm not here preaching to you about anything, but I will tell you, I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe there was a purpose for my life. And I write a lot about that too. I get up every day knowing that there is a reason why I'm 3'9" with no arms and no legs. And I'm finding out that reason every day. And I couldn't be here without that personal faith. And a lot of that started with that small community that we had. You know, it's not dissimilar to the community that you have here in town. You work with each other, you're neighbors to each other, you know your strengths and weaknesses. There's nothing you can really hide. But that also makes you a better community. Well, we had that growing up too, and my parents were able to lean on people when they needed to. I was able to lean on people, and then you grow from that. Certainly.
Well, thank you very much. I'll have John, we'd like to give you all a chance to talk individually with John, and he'll be in the back signing books. And if any of you have any further questions, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer them there. So
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.